Friendship Trap by Albedo equals 1. Chapter 1. Twins. Minuette walked briskly down the main street of Ponyville. Her reunion with her old friend, Twilight Sparkle, had reminded her that it had been far too long since she had visited her friends in Ponyville. Lyra's birthday was coming up soon, so it was the perfect time to visit. Her schedule was pretty packed, but she had made time. After all, this was her special talent. As she walked down the middle of the street, she glanced cautiously at the signs of each store as she passed. She suddenly stopped walking and stared at one in disbelief. Right in front of her was a sign with an hourglass cutie mark on it in full color. Her eyes scanned the text underneath. "Colgate's Family Dentistry," she read aloud. She decided that she had time for a quick detour and opened the door with her magic. A bell over the door rang as the door opened past it. Immediately inside was a small but tastefully decorated waiting room. Behind a desk on one side of the room sat a light blue crystal unicorn with a starry mane and straight-cut forelock. The receptionist was trying to rearrange several stacks of paper simultaneously and didn't immediately look up, but she heard in a cheerful voice, "Welcome to Colgate's Family Dentistry. The doctor is not in yet, but she should be here in just a minute." As the crystal pony restacked her papers, Minuette caught a glimpse of the hourglass on her flank. Obviously, this must be Colgate. Strange, dentist offices were usually named after the dentist. The receptionist set down the stacks and took a sip of a glass of water that she sat on the desk. "I can sign you in now, and as soon as she gets here, you can—" She looked up and stopped mid-sentence. "Oh, Colgate, you're back early. You're never early." Now it was Minuette's turn to be confused. "I'm not Colgate. I'm Minuette. I thought you were Colgate." The receptionist scowled. "Colgate, I'm really not in the mood for your silliness. I had to stay up late last night to work on the paperwork, and still had to come in early this morning to get it done." Minuette glanced down at the desk and saw the receptionist's nameplate as Minuette. "I'm afraid you had me mixed up with somebody else," she said apologetically. "My name is Minuette, and I'm pretty sure we have never met before." Minuette gave her a hard look. "If you're not Colgate, you're her identical twin. You even have the same cute—" Minuette felt a tingling sensation in her horn that quickly spread over her whole body. The feeling was familiar. She had used this spell countless times before. This time, however, somebody else was doing it. All around her, everything seemed to be caught in invisible molasses. Ripples in the glass of water stopped traveling. Birds outside hovered in midair, and Minuette froze with a rather amusing expression on her face. Minuette remained unaffected and glanced around curiously for the source of magic. After a minute, she saw a blue unicorn running down the street towards the dentist's office. A blue unicorn with a blue and white striped mane. A blue unicorn with an hourglass cutie mark. The newcomer opened the door and trotted inside, only to stop and gape when she saw Minuette. Minuette suspected that her own expression was similarly rude, but the situation was just too absurd to do anything else. Minuette found her voice first. "Dr. Colgate, I presume?" Colgate nodded. "That's me. Who are you?" "I'm Minuette." She glanced at the frozen receptionist and added, "With 2 T's and 2 E's. "That's amazing," Colgate announced. "You look just like me." "You look just like me," Minuette corrected her. "Even sisters don't look much like each other like we do." "I always wished I could have a sister," Colgate mused. "It would be so much fun." "We even have the same cutie mark," Minuette gestured at the frozen world around them. "And the same special talent. Why am I not frozen? The time stop spell freezes everything but the caster." "I always called it a clog-up myself," Colgate said, "and I thought I had invented it." They stared at each other for a little bit longer before Minuette said, "You should probably let time resume. I bet you're getting tired by now." "Yeah, I'm sure you know the feeling." Colgate's yellow magic faded, and the world around them resumed moving as if it had never stopped. "T-mark," Minuette finished before realizing that there were 2 where they had been 1. She sighed and held her hoof against her temple. Which one of you is Colgate? Colgate raised a hoof. Hey, this is great! Even Minuette can't tell us apart. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? We should trade places to try out each other's lives? Lyra's party is tonight. We can practice there. You know Lyra too? Of course, she lives in Ponyville. The two unicorns continue to plot their prank, completely oblivious to the crystal pony covering her eyes behind them. Pinkie Pie was making last-minute tune-up to the balloons that festooned Sugar Cube Corner's windows and doorways. She felt an odd tingling in her forelock, and then Minuette was suddenly standing next to her. Hi, Pinkie Pie. How you doing, you old party pony? Minuette, I'm glad you could come. What? I'm Colgate. Don't you remember? I was part of the animal team for Winter Wrap-Up for the last 3 years. I just opened a dentist office. Pinkie Pie looked alarmed. Of course, Colgate. I never forgot a face. Or do I? She thought. Hi, Pinkie Pie. How are you, you old party pony? Another blue unicorn appeared to the other side of her. Minuette? Pinkie Pie asked uncertainly. Of course. Who wouldn't it be? The unicorn replied with a cheeky grin. Of course. Has any pony ever told you that you look really similar? Pinkie smiled winningly. The twins looked at each other in a mock dismay. What? One of them asked. We look nothing alike, agreed the other. See? They stood next to each other and struck mirror poses. Oh dear, Pinkie thought. Keeping every pony straight may be harder than I ever thought. At that moment, the guest of honor walked in. Hey, Pinkie Pie, sweet Bonbon sends her regards, but she has to do something in Canterlot. Hi, Lyra, the Hourglass ponies chorused. Lyra looked and gasped. Minuette? Colgate? I didn't know you knew each other. Of course, we're like sisters, one of them replied. Pinkie Pie caught Lyra wincing slightly at the remark, but the twins seemed too caught up in their performance to notice. We bought you a gift, one of them asserted. We were going to bring separate gifts, the other explained, until we find out that we got you the same thing. Well, thank you for coming. It's good to see you both again, Lyra said uncertainly. The doppelgangers devolved into giggles. After a moment, one of them whispered to the other, and they both lit their horns. There was a quick blue blur, and one pony stood where two had stood before. She waggled her eyebrows at Lyra, expectantly. Colgate? Lyra asked at random. The mare just giggled, and did not confirm or deny Lyra's guess. To Pinkie and Lyra's great relief, Minuette and Colgate did very little to disrupt the party, mostly settling for impersonating each other to ponies that only knew one of them. As the party began to wind down, Lyra found the pair having a private discussion in an empty corner. She had been more suspicious of ponies in general ever since she had discovered that her roommate was a spy, so she hid behind the counter and listened in. But I guess they found some pony more qualified. I ended up working for a travel agency. It's a little boring, but I get along with all the ponies, so it's not too bad. I wish we had traveled more when I was a filly, but Mum never wanted me to leave Ponyville. What about your dad? I don't remember my dad. He left us before I was old enough. I know the feeling. My mother left when I was tiny too. Hey, we should introduce them to each other. Oh my gosh, I was thinking the same thing. If they liked each other enough, we really would be sisters. There was a dim yellow glow for a moment, and then the conversation resumed. I hope Lyra's enjoying her party. She should be. She has lots of friends, and Pinkie Pie always throws a great shindig. I hope she isn't too weirded out by both of us being here. Nah, Lyra's cool. She wouldn't care if we're being a little weird. Hi, Lyra, one of them said right in her ear. Lyra screamed and jumped 5 feet straight into the air. She landed on top of the counter and looked all around herself frantically, pupils contracted and breathing heavily. From her elevated vantage point, she could see now what had happened. The twins were smiling innocently up at her from either side of the counter. One of them must have been talking both sides of the conversation so the other can sneak up on her. probably from the moment they started talking about her. Lyra struggled to lower her heart rate to a normal speed. She noticed that every pony still at the party was staring at her. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. I just got startled. She hopped shakily down from the counter and glared at whoever was on the side of the counter. Some pony snuck up and surprised me. That's all. She looked back to see that the other of the twins had walked around the counter and they were standing next to each other. Hey Lyra, do you know our parents? I know Colgate's mom and Minuette's dad, Lyra said evasively. What about my... Wait, you're hiding something. You know what happened to our missing parents, don't you? Lyra sighed. I'm not supposed to tell you. Tell us, the pair chorused. Lyra struggled eternally for a moment, then sagged. Fine. You have to promise you won't tell your parents that I was the one that told you. They nodded enthusiastically. You are sisters. Lyra smirked at the matching expressions of astonishment. Your parents broke up right after you were born, each taking one filly with them. I found a picture that time I was visiting your house, Minuette, but your dad made me promise to never tell. I knew it! It all makes sense! We have to fix it! Fix it? How? It's been 18 years. They can't still be mad. We'll just introduce them to each other. We'll have a whole family. Not to rain on your parade, Lyra interjected, but surely they would have talked to each other by now if they weren't still mad. Don't worry, Lyra. We've got this. We just need to set up a trap. We can find out how they originally fell in love and set it up again. How hard can it be? What if they don't have time for any of that? Lyra objected. The twins looked at each other and grinned. We'll make time.